Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the tank review for the brand new Polish Tier 8 Premium Medium tank, the CS-53-56 Wojtek, which is part of the level 100 of the new Icebound Season Pass. So if you do like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the CS-53-56 Wojtek. It's part of the level 100 in the Season Pass. It is 2,000 gold, so naturally if you pay 2,000 gold, you will get this vehicle at level 100, which you always really want to do because you get 2,000 gold back for completing the Season Pass, and maybe some more if you get lucky enough from your chests. So the CS-53-56, it is a tank that is absolutely 100% up my alley. I have really adored playing this thing, and that's because it reminds me of a Tier 8 Premium that has always been one of my favourite tanks, which is the King Dragon or the Type 59-2, because it's got that 390 Alpha from the 122mm gun, which is nice. The gun can be a bit derpy at times, and you do have a fairly long reload, but the Alpha slaps, and that is quite nice. And to be honest, it's actually felt fairly consistent for me. The mobility is pretty good. The hull armour is not. The hull armour is pretty trash, and the majority of shots that hit this hull armour, apart from angles, right, you can just ricochet shots, but most of the shots that hit this upper plate, lower plate, side armour go through. Except for, obviously, like I say, lucky RNG. The one thing it does have is solid turret armour. This turret armour is very, very good. Naturally starts to fall apart when you're against some of the higher pen rounds at tier 9 and 10, like premium rounds, right? But at the same time, it's a tier 8 tank. What doesn't in terms of tier 8s? But yeah, the turret armour is pretty solid. It can bounce quite a lot of shots as long as they don't hit the cupola on top, and then you can slap people with the 122mm gun. 8 degrees of gun depression is also pretty flexible for this vehicle, which makes it nice with the nice mobility, and it actually has pretty good camo as well, which means there's quite a few situations where you can stay unspotted and you sit there going, oh, they haven't spotted me. Nice. And yeah, honestly, I have loved playing this thing. I've had some really good games in this, and even the bad games were really not that bad. It's one of those vehicles that I have thoroughly clicked with, and I knew I would. I knew I would when I looked at it and started playing it. And yeah, it's gone through that way. I've just thoroughly enjoyed this vehicle, and it was definitely an enjoyable experience. Some people might not enjoy it because the gun is a bit derpy and obviously got the longer reload, but this tank is definitely a bit of me. So let's get into the statistics of the CS-53-56. And by the way, this camo from last season's regiment looks really cool. Just saying. Just saying. So, the statistics of the CS-53-56. As you can see, we've got a 50km/h top speed, 16km/h reverse speed, 900 horsepower engine is 17.31 horsepower per ton ratio, which means that this vehicle gets up to its top speed pretty easily, as it has a 2 on soft, 1.2 on medium, and 1 on firm. The terrain resistances are pretty decent as well, meaning they don't really hold the tank back that much, and especially since they'll get a little bit better with some of the crew skills, or generally with like Born Leader. 15% internal fire chances in the middle of fire chances. I haven't really been set on fire that often in this thing. I've just jinxed myself, but it's generally not been too bad in terms of fires. 40 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed means this tank does actually turn pretty quickly on its tracks. 35 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed means it does turn slower than the track, so you've got to be mindful of that with this tank. It might be something that you want to change with running rapid aim. 321 metres of still concealment with 349 on the move. Now, 349 on the move isn't great, but once you put the improved concealment on, you get the camouflage piece and green thumb and stuff like that. This camo on still goes down to about 290 something. I think it is 292, something like that, or 296, one of the two. You'll see in a bit. Meaning it's actually pretty stealthy when you get it into those nice bush locations, and naturally you have more concealment when you have the green thumb as well. Still, concealment will still be pretty high, but it's a lot lower once you get the crew skills and stuff like that on it, and generally the concealment for this vehicle for a tier 8 medium is actually pretty decent. You got 380 metres of view range, which is bog standard for a tier 8 premium tank, or tier 8 tank in general. 380 is the average for tier 8s, so that's okay. 1.38 accuracy during rotation is not great. 3.82 accuracy during movement, not great. Honestly, as a pair, not great. Means the aim circle becomes rather large when you move the tank and turn the turret. You have a 2.5 second aim time as well, which means that it takes a wee while to get this gun aimed in. And with 0.38 accuracy at 100 metres, you're getting onto the derpier end of accuracy, and it is starting to really get noticeable in terms of the derpy scale for this gun, which is why I say this gun can be troll. It can be. But for me, it's felt, you get it fully aimed and it's felt oddly consistent. But some people might not like it just because of the fact that it is fairly derpy. The aim circle does bloom out quite a bit and it takes a wee bit to get it aimed in. But generally, I haven't found it that bad myself. You got 8 degrees of gun depression, which again is pretty flexible on ridgeline. It's quite nice for the tank, and again it accentuates the armor on the turret when you are hull down. It makes obviously the effective angles of the turret armor a lot better, meaning you're more likely to bounce shots off of it, which is nice. 13-second reload is quite long, 1800 DPM, not the best DPM for a tier 8 tank, but naturally that's to balance out the fact that you have 390 alpha, so yeah, it's one of those things. 221 pen on the standard AP round, 252 penetration on the premium APCR round, and 68mm of penetration on the HE round. For 530 alpha, that HE round's actually pretty good, and it will go through quite a few of the lightly armoured vehicles you might face at tier 6 and 7, and a lot of the artilleries you'll go against as well, which means you can hit them for 530, which could be pretty juicy. It's something that you could consider. You could consider the ammo swapper on this vehicle to just meme with those HE rounds against some of the really lightly armoured vehicles and light tanks and stuff like that. But I prefer the camo myself. You got 1,018 meters a second shell velocity on the standard AP rounds, which, like I say, the standard AP round penetration is average for a tier 8 tank. That's a very average penetration these days, so that's decent. 252 on the premium is pretty decent as well, especially since it's APCR and not heat rounds, which means that you won't struggle with spaced armor problems. And you got 1,267 meters a second shell velocity on that premium APCR round, which is actually pretty good velocity. And it's one of those things that when I've ended up firing the premium, I've sat there going, "Oh, that velocity is quite nice for this kind of gun." So that's quite nice for the tank. And 980 meters a second shell velocity for the HE, which is slightly below average. You've got to be careful of that when you do switch to that HE round, that it is a lot slower than your standard or your premium. And as it is a silver, well, it's a premium tank, your silver bonus is 150%, which is on the low end of silver bonuses, but it does still make decent silver being a tier 8 premium tank. But yeah, like I say, that in general, this tank, I've clicked with this tank, and this tank has been fairly enjoyable for me personally. So let's get on to the modules of the tank. And as you can see, that's where the engine block is for the tank. It is likely to get its engine damaged if you get shot through this left-hand side of the upper plate, lower plate, so do be careful of that. And naturally, that's where the engine block is. You're more likely to get set on fire or your engine damaged if people shoot you through that section there. That's where the ammo racks are for the tank, and I have had my ammo rack damaged a couple of times. It's not like the Challenger Mark III was, where it was every single shot that entered the tank broke the ammo rack. It's not been like that, but because of the fact that you've got the 3 blocks of ammo racks, yeah, if you get shot through that drive wheel, you're very likely to get your ammo rack damaged, so do be careful. Not so much if you shot through this right-hand side. If you shot through the middle of the tank here or in the back of the turret, that is also likely to damage the ammo rack as well. And that's where the crew sits in the CS-53-56. In terms of the armor, like I say, the upper plate, lower plate, the general hull armor is really not very good, and it can be a royal pain, as most things will pen it fairly easily, which, yeah, can be frustrating if I can find the side armor somewhere along here. So it does have 60mm of side armor, which is pretty good. So you can actually side scrape for this vehicle, which is good. It's an asset that you can use because you're not going to get overmatched by a lot of vehicles, which is definitely good because a lot of the weakly armoured hull armour tanks generally can't side scrape. So having 60mm of armour is quite good. You've just got to be careful because that is a 100mm cheek plate there underneath the turret ring, there and there, which you've got to be very, very careful of because if you're side scraping, naturally you can catch shots straight into that position there. It's only 100mm thick, and people will pen it very, very easily. The cupola on top is also 100mm thick, so that's an area for people to aim at. But like I say, the turret front is 260mm thick, which is very, very good, and will mean that people that hit this will tend to bounce quite a lot. And that's why I say the turret armor is actually really good on this vehicle, unless you're going against some of the high pen tier 9 and 10 rounds. So you're talking, what, 310, 320, 330, 340, right? But then, at that point, most vehicles are weak against that, so, you know, it's not really as much of an issue. Gun manlet's also 250mm thick on this vehicle. If we can find the cheeky part, if we can find those viewport, do the viewfinders count? There we go, 50mm. So you might have to, I'm not sure, I've not tested it, to be fair. You might be okay, but those spots here and here might also be a problem for the turret. Not 100% sure, though, because not tested it. So, yeah, if you're shooting at this thing and it's hull down, try shooting those if you can't see the cupola, because it's always worth a shot. But yeah, that's the turret armor. The turret armor, like I say, is really solid on this vehicle. So far as I've played it and so far as I've experienced it, a lot of people that have shot straight at the turret front have bounced, which is quite nice for the CS-53-56 and definitely is an asset for the vehicle. So you just got to bear in mind that if you're out in the open, your hull armor is just going to get shredded by everything. But if you're hull down using the 8 degrees of gun depression, the turret armor on this vehicle is also going to be pretty damn solid. So what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment? Well, I've slapped Wojtek the Bear into the 53, so let's put it into the 53-56, and I run Born Leader, Situational Awareness, Run and Gun, Snapshot, Camouflage Expertise, Green Thumb, Radio Jamming, Comms Expert, and Expert Gunner. Expert Gunner to just increase the chance of doing module damage by 6%, while also decreasing the effective distance on my penetration by 25%. Radio Jamming to decrease the time spotted by enemies by 3 seconds, and Comms Expert to keep things lit up for 3 seconds longer. Now, you could swap out Comms Expert quite easily for something like Rapid Aim, because the turret traverse is slower than the tracks. That's definitely a possibility. Or you could run the Armour Angling to reduce the amount of damage coming to the tank by 5%, or run Track Mechanic to get the tracks back on faster, as the tracks do like getting blown off quite easily. So there's also always the possibility of what you want to actually run on the Wojtek crew, which, yeah, there's plenty of options for instead of Comms Expert. I just like that to keep things lit up for longer and get unspotted quicker, especially since this thing has pretty decent camo, and I can sneak into some sneaky bushes. And Camouflage Expertise and Green Thumb for that exact purpose, because the camo can get down to a good level, and making the camo 10% even better in foliage is also quite handy for this vehicle, and it helps. There's quite a few situations where you sit there going, oh my lord, he's going to spot me, and then you go, oh, they didn't see me, and I believe that's because of Green Thumb. Snapshot and Run and Gun, because the gun handling on this vehicle really isn't very good if you do not help it, so we're helping it out as much as humanly possible, with Situational Awareness to get the view range as good as possible, and Born Leader to get everything about the tank as good as humanly possible. And in terms of equipment for this vehicle, well, naturally we run food, but we also run the Advanced Loader to get the DPM as good as possible, because again, the DPM is pretty poor on this tank if you don't help it, so we want to help that out. The Gun Stabilizer to get the accuracy during rotation and movement down as low as humanly possible. Optics to be able to spot for ourselves as well, because we do have very average view range. It's nice to be able to do that. And then improved concealment to get that camo down to a good level, because it's a very nice asset for this vehicle. It really is. The amount of times you can stay unspotted and then surprise people with 390 Alpha is lovely in this tank. But again, plenty of different ways you can kit out the vehicle. You could run that loaded shell exchanger to be able to use the HE rounds where and when you want to. You could run vents to try and get the best reload possible and maximise everything about the tank. You do only get slight bonuses, but you know, maximising is always a good thing. You could run the GLD if you think the aim time is far too long and it annoys you. You could definitely do that. You could run the turbocharger to be able to get that extra top speed, as well as it will give you the extra top speed. It will give you, what, 52.5 kilometers now? Yeah, 52.5 kilometers an hour top speed, and it will give you extra from the engine, making it feel a bit more mobile. Plenty of different ways you can kit out the vehicle. It's really down to you and how you want to kit out this tank to make it as good as it possibly can be for you. So let's get into the statistics now it's fully kitted out. So as you can see, we've not really touched the top speed. The ground resistances have gone on to 1.92, 1.15 and 0.96, solid ground resistances. 292 meters of still concealment with 322 on the move. It's pretty good concealment. Not as great on the move, naturally, because you are not a light tank, so you're more likely to get spotted if you are moving. But when you get to a point and stay stationary, it can be quite difficult to get you spotted with that 292 meters of still concealment. You've now got 36.5 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed, so it has got a little bit quicker, but it's still nowhere near the hull rotation speed. 1.01 accuracy during rotation with a 2.62 accuracy during movement is a hell of a lot better than it was. Still not good as a pair, but far, far, far better, which means the aim circle is nowhere near blooming out as much as it once was. Still blooms out quite a bit, but not as badly as it was without the help. 2.4 second aim time as well is obviously 0.1 of a second faster on the aim time, which is still fairly slow, and again, you will still feel that aim time, so that's sad times for you. And you've now got a 0.36 accuracy at 100 meters, which is that little bit more accurate. It's still on the derpier end of accuracy because you're getting beyond 0.35 accuracy, but it's a little bit more accurate than it was. 11.53 second reload is now 2028 DPM, which again is still not the best DPM in the universe for a tier 8 tank, but it's the price to pay for having that 390 Alpha. And that 390 Alpha, like I say, is very, very nice at tier 8. And there's quite a few vehicles that do have this 390 Alpha that you're talking medium tanks that generally don't have the penetration that you have. They tend to have that in the premium, but it's heat rounds, and like I say, the heat rounds can be a troll when firing at some of the tier 10s, whereas this thing gets APCR, and the APCR is lovely. Genuinely lovely, and you don't struggle for penetration that much because 221 as well with the standard AP, so that goes through most tanks you're going to face at tier 8. only starts to struggle once you get to the more heavily armoured tier 9s and 10s, but then you've got the 252 for that. The only real tanks that you do actually struggle with penetration-wise with 252 is things like Type 5s, Mausers, etc, etc. But yeah, that's the CS-53-56 Wojtek. Like I say, it's very similar to the CS-53 in terms of how it manoeuvres, in terms of how the hull armour behaves, but in lieu of the very good DPM that this thing gets and the 100mm gun, you actually get that 122, which is more punchy. You lose the DPM, but you actually gain a very, very solid turret, which is very nice indeed. And like I say, this tank has been absolutely up my alley. 100% up my alley. I have thoroughly enjoyed playing it, and this is one that I'll probably end up playing. You'll probably see it on the channel quite a few more times in the coming months, because I will be playing it a good amount, because it's one of those that I have thoroughly enjoyed. And it just reminds me of the Type 59-2, but without the shell velocity, but better pen. You know, that's the way it goes. But that's the CS-53-56 Wojtek. Pretty solid tank. Getting it for essentially for free from the season pass, but paying 2,000 gold. Absolutely solid, worth it. For me personally, absolutely solid, worth it. Like I said, there'll be a lot of people that might not get on with it because the gun handling's a bit derpy and it's got that lower DPM, so it's a bit more of a struggle to make it usable in that way. But generally, the 390 Alpha is super duper satisfying, no matter the matchup you're in, because if you're in tier 10s, you're hitting them for 390, which means you can trade quite effectively in that regard. If you're in a tier 6 and 7 and 8 game, that 390 Alpha is very punchy, and it is very, very nice, and that's what has always been super satisfying about the 390 Alpha guns at tier 8. So what I'm going to do now is send you into the replays, where you can watch this tank in action, see if it's a bit of you or not, and just see how it handles. So, I'll see you in the replay. So here we are in the replays with the CS-53-56. This first game, we are on this map. Oh, look at King Dragon. I was talking about that tank a minute ago. So yeah, we're on the CS-53-56 on Prokhorovka. Oh my lord, I saw Proc. We actually got on Proc. The same as we got on Sand River. You're going to see that as well. I've not seen these maps for a bit, so it's quite nice to see these maps. Well, I've seen Proc more than I've seen Sand River, but there we go. Map rotation, am I right? So, the CS-53-56 is... Honestly, I've clicked with it so well. I've not had many bad games in it. In fact, one of the only bad games I've had in it, which was me doing about 800 damage, was me not watching what I was doing. I was texting, and I looked up and went, oh, I've come to a flank by myself. Wait, why have I got 8 spotting ribbons? Dead. that's basically how it went, which is not the tank. Most of the games I've had in this tank have just gone so well, which means that by the time I come to play it on stream today, as when this video is probably going to be released, no doubt, it's all going to go horrendously, naturally. But from my games that I've played in it so far, I've loved every second of it. But then again, like I say, I have absolutely clicked with it, and it is 100% up my alley as a tank. This is what I prefer out of a tank, as opposed to, say the T25 Pilot, right? T25 Pilot is currently on... Oh, that was a big hit. T25 Pilot is currently on contract for premium. I don't mind the T25 Pilot. The DPM's alright. It's a pretty average tier 8 American medium tank, right? But that tank is not my kind of thing. I don't particularly enjoy it all that much. I prefer it more if it's got a gimmicky type thing to it. You know, so like the M26 T... Or is it the T99? It's the T99 Pershing, you know, the rocket Pershing, where it's that Pershing which is pretty solid, but then it's also got rockets, which can add a bit of fun to it. This vehicle is 100% up my alley. The King Dragon, the Type 59-2, the Revel Arise, the Super Sherman, they've always been my kind of thing. I've always loved those. Sure, they've got poor DPM, and the accuracy can sometimes leave a bit to be desired, but, well, Derp is love, Derp is life, you know what I mean? And so we've just clicked with it, loved every second of it. And here on Prokhorovka, this is probably the sort of nice map for it, generally, because, like I say, the hull armor on this vehicle is pathetic. As you've already seen, the LHMTV came in, he auto-aimed, he fired, he penned us pretty much every time. Artillery hits hard. Hello, Piggy. I've heard it's revenge time, my son. Get out my game. That was for hitting me. Revenge. But yeah, so the hull armor is tragic, but the turret armor is pretty solid. So if you can use the 8 degrees of gun depression, this kind of map with all the ridge lines and stuff is probably what you want to be doing, because then you can show only the turret, you can bounce shots off the turret, and you can only expose the bits of the tank that you really, really want to. And a map like Proc is also pretty good for this tank as well, because yeah, your camo's good, and that means you can stay unspotted in quite a few situations, which is also pretty good for the tank. So, this game here on Proc, we have managed 2.4k damage, 1100 assistance so far, just looking for the shot into the Pershing, and oh, I love that new outline. I love it. I love that new outline. This update, this new update with the slight quality of life changes, like that new outline where I can see exactly where that Pershing is. Look, I can tell most of his tank is behind the ridgeline. I can tell where that charioteer is. Look, at the top of his turret is where I can shoot it. I can't shoot the hull. Whereas before, I would not have been able to tell that otherwise, other than feathering where it is. That new outline's great. You know, the new PBRS, I do like the new PBRS. All that sort of stuff. It's been quite nice. And then you've got this tanks where the Charlie Mark 3 for the season is, yeah, it's a typical Era 3 MBT where it's just all right at what it does. It's nothing true special. There's a lot out there that's just as good, if not better. And then you got this thing, which I have thoroughly enjoyed playing. Truly, like I say, I cannot wax lyrical enough about how much I've enjoyed this vehicle. It's definitely a bit of me. But yeah. Here on Proc, we've managed to get 2.9k damage with 1494 assistance, and that was probably one of the worst games I've actually played in the tank. In fact, I think that is the worst game I've played in the tank, except for the one game where I was an idiot and drove straight into the headlong into the enemy team and went, oh, that's a mistake. We finished the game with 4 kills, 2.9k damage, 1494 assistance damage, Pascucci's Medal, the second class, with that 1547 base XP. Again, fairly average game for the CS-53-56, fairly average game general for a tier 8 tank. So we're on to the second replay. In the second replay, we're here on this map, which is Berlin. Berlin, yeah, it absolutely is Berlin. And we're in a tier 10 lobby, so not a good matchup for the tank in general. But what we're going to do is sit on this corner where the rubble pile is. We're just going to let the E4 go first, though, because, you know, he's a big gun. We've got to let big gun go first. We see the bat tap. The bat tap is behind that bush, and I think, what would I do if I was a bat tap? I'd go in the bush. The fact that we get spotted there, you can see me have a look and go, no, they couldn't have seen me. I reckon he's in the bush. Hacker! 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 I can hear him screaming it from the rooftops, you know, as we hit that bat tap blind. Because again, for me personally, there was only really one place I got spotted from there. Because where the Valeraphon is right now, I'd have spotted them because it's out in the open. That bush is the only position when I poked around that little bit of corner there that I thought, that's the only spot I could be getting seen from right now. So you know what, let's chance it. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. We chanced it, we shot the bush, we hit the bat tap, and hit him for 385. Going for that shot into the bat tap this time, he drives straight into the shot. Thank you, Mr. Bat Tap, because I aimed so terribly there, and he drove straight into it, and we're up to 772 damage. So we're seeing where most of the enemy team is. A lot of their team are at the back, around J3, but a lot of them are at this ridge line in front of us. They're not really pushing too aggressively, but that's because we've got quite a few people. We've got a TD at B1, we've got 2 medium tanks and 2 TDs at E1-2. And I'm starting to think, okay, I'm not really helping my team in this position. Obviously, I'm trying to play that support role like you want to do as a tier 8 in a tier 10 game, because naturally, as a tier 8 in a tier 10 game, it's the same for any tank, realistically. If you're 2 tiers down, you don't want to be in the face pushing too aggressively, because it's going to go pretty badly. But you still need to be supporting if you can. So the M4190 managed to poke over and just shoot me and pen me straight through the drive wheel, again, naturally, as he was going to do, and I didn't manage to get a shot in return. And I sat there going, I'm not helping. I need to go forward and find somewhere where I can help my teammates out. So we see the Valeraphon, we see there's a TD back there with that Valeraphon as well as the bat tap, and it's a Waffle E100. So we're just going to go over, wait for the aim, put the shot straight through the turret of the Waffle E100. We know we can stay safe by poking over to shoot the Waffle and not expose too much to the right hand side so they can't shoot me. So we're just going to take advantage to try and get as many shots as possible into that Waffle. And then I see the 268 version 5 and sit there going, huh? What's he doing? Oh, that's bad. Oh! That's not going to buff out. No. That looks painful. That guy suffered a head loss. I mean, yeah, painful times. We look behind us and see the Projector 65 has gone whole ham into the Technodrome. Not quite sure what that guy was doing either, but we'll take the free shot of damage. That's one of those where you sit there going, that's 2 tier 10 tanks that have just thrown themselves away, and that's basically the flank lost for these guys because of that, but hey-ho. So we try and get the shot into the lower plate of the IS Desmond Tutu, but it bounces because I think we actually hit the upper plate. Again, that's the bit of the derpiness of the gun coming into play. We try to go for the turret shot into the M41 90mm. Again, we miss because, again, the gun is pretty derpy. So if you're not making sure, it does like a miss like that. And if you're taking a slim shot, it can be a pain. We do get the shot in that time to the M4190. 432. Nice. yet. Like I say, this tank does feel super satisfying. When those shots roll in, it is very, very nice. And this was the perfect kind of position for me in the CS-53-56, which is why I put myself here. And that's because that 8 degrees of gun depression. We can use the 8 degrees, we can poke over, only expose the turret, and that way they'll only be able to shoot the strongest part of my armour, trying not to expose my hull armour all too much. So I'm going to join this Technodrome in trying to pressure the IS Desmond Tutu, looking at the Bellerophon along the way, and then I knew there was a Waffle Panzer IV around that corner, so I aimed the shot up, put the shot into the Waffle Panzer IV there, and you know what, instead of going after the Desmond Tutu, I might try and finish off this Waffle Panzer IV, because I don't want to take a shot for 560 from this guy. Thankfully, he shoots and misses. In fact, I think he actually hit the Technodrome behind me, so I'm not sure he was actually aiming for me. But we get the shot there into the Waffle Panzer IV, finishing him off for our first kill of this game. The Ice Desmond Tutu gets shut down by the Technodrome. Bellerophon over here, I'm looking at going, yeah, that Waffle Panzer IV with the big gun is going to end up finishing him off. And there's just that Waffle 100 left alive, who was gunning it along the K line to get away. So, I think I was saying at the time, I'm fully expecting to go chasing after this Waffle 100. And either he's going to be in the corner at K0, or I'm going to drive around the corner and go, oh god, a Waffle, as he then deletes me. So we're just going to go chasing after the Waffle, see where he is, and oh god, a Waffle! Put the shot into his turret, we get out of dodge just in time to only take 1 hit from him. He's fired 3, fired 4, which means he's got no shells left in the clip, so we can poke around the corner, put the shot in, we low roll for 321, so nowhere near enough to kill him, although we'd have had to high roll to kill him anyway, and the Technodrome shuts him down. And we finish the game with a nice total there for the CS-53 brain. What was that? CS-53-56 Wojtek there on Berlin in a tier 10 lobby, which is not the best map for it, but we'll take it. So 4.1k damage with the 1 kill. 1624 base XP. Nice game for the CS-53-56 Wojtek, which, like I say, is just, I've felt it to be a pretty damn solid tank in general. And even those sorts of situations where you're in tier 10 game like that, you've got that, you don't have the DPM. You don't have the DPM to keep up with tier 10s. But if you did, then you would be really overpowered if we're realistic, because you'd trash all the tier 6s. But you have the Alpha, and the Alpha, the pack-a-punch power, is what makes this tank so delightful. Because even in those tier 10 games, when they might hit you or catch a shot into you for 390 or 420 or 440 or whatever it may be, you're also catching a shot into them for 390, which hurts them as well, which is always nice. So we're on the third replay. In the third replay, we're playing on one of my favourite maps, which is Sand River, and we've come to this position here at G45. So what you're best to do on this map, genuinely, is to come to this position, get... Mr. Bulldog, what are you... Do you want to die, sir? Do you want to die? Clearly, he wanted to die, and he didn't want to live in this world with me, which is understandable. Sad times. But anyway, yeah, you want to come to this position here at G5 and get shots at people as they cross up onto the sand dunes. Now, the thing with this position is you don't want to stick around too long. We're going to end up doing it in this replay, and that's because we realise there's only really one tank up there. Because what can happen is TDs get up there pretty quickly, and whereas their position on the opposite side from their spawn is really good, a really strong position all game, this position, if they have people up on those sand dunes, is really untenable. Because you cannot stay safe from them very easily at all. They have pretty easy shots at you, and it can be super frustrating as you will also struggle to be able to spot them. So what you want to do is get the opening shots out at people as they try and cross onto the sand dune, and then run away screaming like a little girl, because it's just naturally what you need to do. But let's say, I've realised so far, and especially when I go up for a shot on this FCM, I put a shot in, I get spotted. No detected. Nothing. Now that could be a false sense of security, because there could be something up there and it's just not bothered to look at me. Or there's just the T95E2 up there. So what I'm going to do, just off of the information that the game's given me, because that detector didn't go off, I'm just going to roll with it. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to say what I'm going to say, you know? And I'm going to stay here and just try and work them over. Because that's what I feel like I can do from this position, because there doesn't seem to be much here. So I'll poke over thinking about getting the shot into the 703-2, and then decide against it, because, yeah, I don't really fancy taking a double barrel, and that double barrel could actually kill me, so if I get unlucky, so I don't want that. Artie hits me, which, sad times there. We're getting a bit of assistance here, I think, on the FCM F1, or it's possibly on something else as we poked over on our right-hand side. He's looking down somewhere else, so we try and get the shot in, and we don't pen the FCM-F1. But that was a bit of an awkward shot there, and in fact, because of the way that his armour is, I could only shoot the drive wheel, and the drive wheels actually poke out in front of the hull armour, meaning there's no hull armour behind the drive wheel, making that sort of shot basically impossible. So we get shot into the side of the 7032 Black, who is a bit preoccupied with the people coming in behind us, and, well, flamey boys as well. We're going to go over, wait for the reload, and try and get the shot in, but in fact, he's just driven off because he's gone, all right, fine. As we were coming over this way, the Hammer comes across. He hits us on the move. Thanks, Hammer. We hit the Hammer in the side, damaging his ammo rack, because naturally, if you hit the Tigers, if you hit any of the Tigers in the midsection of the hull, beneath the turret, generally that's where the ammo racks sit on those German vehicles. So if you want to ammo rack those things, do that. Terrible shot. You're an absolute moron, as we ended up putting ourselves up on top of the rock there, which we jacked the tank up, which is a bit of a problem. Looking for the cupola shot on Mr. Hammer. Straight in. Like I say, the actual stats of this gun aren't great, but in my experience of playing it in the 13, 14 games I've played so far, the gun's actually been fairly consistent. When I've wanted it to hit, and I've made sure it's fully aimed and I lead it correctly, the gun's just felt good. There's guns that are better, and I mean like 0.35, 0.34 accuracy, with better aim time, that have generally felt worse than this gun has. And I think, in fact, the Type 59-2 gun is better than this, technically, in terms of statistics. But that gun feels so much more troll than this gun. You know? It could be one of those things where, like I say, I played the first 14 games in it. I then go to play it on stream later, and the tank just goes, you know what? I gave you a false sense of security. I'm now going to be absolutely tragic and poo. You're going to suffer. Lol. But, like I say, for me, this is my type of tank. I've absolutely clicked with it, and I feel like this is the way it's going to continue for me with it. But there we go. So we've managed to pick up some shots. We're trying to get the kill here on Mr. S51 because, again, we love getting our bacon. We get our third kill of this game on the Piggy. We're up to 4.2k damage with 2.2k assist. There's 2 tanks left. Light tank, we have absolutely no idea where he is. Heavy tank, we knew because earlier on there was one spotted crossing the A line, and there was basically no one but 2 light tanks up here to stop them. So we're going to go up this way and see if we can catch out that heavy tank wherever he has gone. And in fact, the light tank actually gets spotted behind us. So we turn around to aim his way in case he goes up towards the cap area. Boost our aim and accuracy with food. Aim it up. Put the shot in. And there's the shell velocity. That was one where I fired it and went, oh, that shell velocity felt quite nice. Because I think that was one of the first times I fired APCR. And yeah, the velocity is pretty good on this tank when you do load that APCR. So we aim up the shot, put it straight through the side of the AMX M445. Just as he took a shot there for the light tank, meaning we could finish off in one shot. Finish the game with the victory, 4 kills, 5,027 damage, which is really nice. With 176,000 silver as well, we'll take that with the first class, the Confederate, the high caliber, the Pascucci's medal, with the 2.2k assistance as well. So 7.2k combined. Really nice game there for the CS-53 56 Wojtek on Sand River, which is a map that I love playing on. It's this tank, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. But now we're on to the 4th and final replay of this video. And this is actually the best game I've played so far in the tank. And we are on this map, which is Karelia. We're in a very heavy tier 9 game. And again, I don't really fear a tier 9 game that much in this vehicle because the alpha, right? It's one of those things, when I'm in something like, say, the 225 Pilot, I'm just pulling that out of the air, which I still need to make a video on, by the way, because it is on contract, which I'm really sorry I haven't actually made a video on that tank yet. I need to get around to that. But yeah, the T25 Pilot, 240 Alpha, that is your cookie cutter, basic, average, tier 8 medium tank. It's got decent mobility, it's got good view range, it's got meh camo, it's got meh armour that can work when you're top tier but pretty poor when you're bottom tier. It's got very good gun handling, it's got a DPM that's pretty good, but not exceptional, right? It's just your bang average tier 8 medium tank. And when I'm in a tier 9 or 10 lobby with that, with the 240 Alpha, I obviously fear the tier 9 10 lobbies a bit more because while I have the DPM and the accuracy, thanks controller for dying, really good of you. Again, could have happened in worse places. But yeah, whereas I fear that because if I get stuck in, I'm hitting them for 240 Alpha, they're hitting me for 390, the trades are a lot less effective. When I'm in a vehicle like this, and I know I'm not going to struggle too much to pen them, and I can hit them for 390, I feel like I can trade more effective, I can be that little bit more aggressive, and because I've got the turret armor that works pretty solidly as well, it just is a general nice feeling aspect of the tank, and I'm not that bad. So, by the way, because my controller batteries died and I had to replace the batteries, the audio for this replay is going to be a little bit off. So when I pull the trigger, you're going to see it. I fire, and then the audio happens. So yeah, it's not your, don't adjust your sets. It's because I had to change the way I record, I had to change the batteries, but there we go. So here on Corellia, we've gone quite aggressively into, oh, derpy gun handling there. We've gone quite aggressively onto this flank into the B2 area, and I'm looking at the situation going, oh, this is not good. There's two Tier 9 heavies with us. We loaded the APCR to get the shots into the E75, and we're just not getting the angle to pen this E75, which is super duper frustrating. Really need to be able to try and get that shot in. He ends up turning ever so slightly, which means we can track and pen that E75. He actually fires his 490 Alpha round, hits our turret front and bounces. Ballsig drives around, and this is kind of where I wish I had the loaded shell exchanger, because I could have loaded those HE rounds and hit him for 530, which would have been super duper juicy. The M6Y gets shut down by our M6Y. Thankfully, we've got the two heavy tanks with us, which is providing the good support. And we're just trying to see where we can get the shots in. The Ballsig poked out, and I'm just worried about taking a hit from that Ballsig. But the E75 ends up driving up into a position where I can get a shot into his side. Thankfully, his snapped shot avoids hitting us. We've now got an IS-32 coming up. We've got a Centurion. Oh, boy, this is, yeah, again, this is one of those where I'm sitting there going, oh, no, this is not looking good. The E75 gets shut down by the M6Y. Great. Guns out the game. It's exactly what we need to do. Ballsig's a one-shot, so if we can get rid of that guy, great. The Centurion comes up. We snap the shot. We end up track damage only on the side of the Centurion. We really needed to hit that shot. That was a bad shot from me. Poor aim. We need to get that shot in because now it's going to take 2 more shots to kill this Centurion. But thankfully, Mr. King Tiger's on it like a car bonnet. He shuts down the Centurion. The IS-32 comes around. I'm still healthy, so I decide, okay, IS-32, if you're going to shoot anyone with your guns, shoot me. Because he's going to kill the King Tiger if he shoots him. So we put 1 shot there into his side armor. Now, I take another hit there from the IS-32. And that was a bit of bad play, but also a bit of just a general misjudgment, because he'd fired one into the King Tiger and then fired one into me. I thought he was going to have a much longer time reloading than he actually did. So we actually took that shot a little bit unnecessarily there, as I felt like I had more time to get round and put the shot into his side, as the King Tiger then also put the shot in to finish him off. So a bit of a bad misjudgment there, which means we're now on 241 hit points, which means the 6 tanks that are left, most of the tanks that are left on their team can actually just sneeze at me and kill me, which is a bit awkward. It also means we have to be fairly careful. So we see the BZ-166. He's over at a 7. He's full health. He can kill me in 1 shot, so I have to be very careful of where that dude is. The King Tiger's moved down to A3, so what I want to do is try and get myself into a position where I can shoot the hill. Why? Because look at the TD. But in fact, there's an M46 pattern KR, and again, there's that lovely new outline. We can see exactly where and which part of that M46 pattern KR is not behind a rock, as the outline tells us exactly when they are full colour red like that. That means that part of the tank is behind the rock, and the bit of tank that we can see with the normal bit of the outline is in a position where we can shoot it, and that's what we went for. So the Waffle Panzer IV, like I say, is pushing up towards their section of the hill. The King Tiger with me has died, by the way, which is a bit awkward because now I have no real cover on my left-hand side, which is what you're trying to, well, which is what I'm trying to look for right now. But yeah, that Waffle Panzer IV going up towards the hill means that if there's any snipersons that might be up there, they're going to get spotted by the Waffle Panzer IV. And if I can support this Waffle Panzer IV, that's what I want to do, because I have a feeling from everything that had been spotted on the other side of the map that there's only really the BZ-166 towards their base area. So I'm not really going to get shot from there, and I feel like there might be 1 or 2 TDs up on top of the hill where the Waffle Panzer IV is currently going. So he spotted the Charioteer, couldn't find a shot at him because the instant the Charioteer got spotted, he just dropped down low straight away. So we see the medium tanks progressing towards their base area, so we're keeping our eye on the Waffle Panzer IV to see if he lights anyone up. And there's the other TD. In fact, there was another, it's a Waffle Panzer IV. The other Waffle Panzer IV was right in front of us. So I'm looking at the Waffle Panzer IV. The BZ-166 kills the Indian Panzer. So I'm assuming the Waffle Panzer IV is going to be looking the way that the Indian Panzer had been. So I'm coming around the left-hand side of the rock where I'll be safe from the BZ-166 and we can get after the Waffle. And I go, oh God, he's running away that way. Woo! Okay, that's fine. We get rid of the Waffle Panzer IV. I did not expect that guy to be running away like that. And to be honest, he clearly did not expect me. So thankfully, me getting the shot off first, shut down the Waffle Panzer IV, securing our second kill of this game, up to 4.3k damage, 17-12 assistance. And like I say, the reason I didn't want to go around the rock on the right-hand side is if I got spotted and managed to probably kill the Waffle Panzer IV, that BZ-166 from where he was spotted from on top of that hill near their cap would have been able to shoot me and kill me. So I didn't want to go around the right-hand side of the rock because of that. But also I expected the Waffle Panzer IV to be shooting and aiming towards where the Indian Panzer had been. So, yeah, thankfully we went around the left-hand side of the rock, and it was the right way to go. So we just posted ourselves up on top of that little ledge there because I thought, well, maybe the BZ-166 is going to be manoeuvring out of their base and I can try and catch a shot at him. But I decided, well, I'm really lonely over here. I can't take on a full health BZ-166. Yeah, I might get 1 or 2 shells into him if I manoeuvre the positions correctly, but I'm never, with my poorer DPM, ever going to beat that. Well, he's got terrible DPM as well, but the thing is, it's going to take me 4 shots at least to take him down. It's going to take him 1 shot to kill us. So, yeah, we just can't get into that fight. So instead, I'm going to go help where my team is, because there's 2 TDs and a heavy tank. We know where 2 of the TDs were. We know where the heavy tank was. They were all down here, except for the BZ-166 that was with us on our flank. So we're going to go and try and help our team get rid of these TDs, and then we can all focus on the BZ-166, and that way we can keep the numbers. Because these guys might end up trying to push these TDs, and these TDs take out a couple of them, and then we're all low health enough that the BZ-166 at full health can just randomly pop shots in. So I get spotted here, which I didn't expect. We put the shot into the charioteer. Now, I've got to be careful in this situation because we get detected and I think, is that the charioteer? But the BZ-166 could be... I'm in a very exposed position here. That BZ-166 could be getting shots at us. So with the charioteer going into a position where I can now use the gun depression to get the shot in, I get down low, finish off the charioteer, and this way I'm also safe from that BZ-166 if he's in a position to shoot me over this hill. So again, we know where the BZ-166 was. He was over towards their cap area. Or is possibly on the other flank. So what I'm going to do is use the decent camo of this vehicle to go poke into the bushes and see if I can try and spot him maybe sitting somewhere waiting in ambush. Try and spot him up, get a shot into him. You know, that sort of thing. All our team's now manoeuvring along, but we're not currently spotting anyone. So what I'm doing right now is knocking all the trees down. Number 1, this will give me better concealment if I'm in the right place because of, well, you know, double bushing and stuff like that. But also, it means that I can maneuver more freely and just not have the problem of knocking down trees, sorry. And he goes, oh, that's where he is. But unexpectedly, that's where the BZ-166 is. And I sit there going, really? I didn't see him anywhere across the... Okay, that's kind of awkward. So the BZ-166 has seen us. The Foch comes over. He's got 4 shots. He's fired 2. He's fired 3. He's missed 1. He's not fired the 4th shell. And I sit there going, well, if I get over and put 1 shell into this BZ-166, that Foch is going to be able to kill him. So we put a shot into the lower plate of the Foch, into the BZ-166, sorry. I'm going, come on, Foch, kill him. Foch, kill him. Foch, help me, Foch, help me. Luckily, he fires as he's on his way down. If he'd just come down the ledge and then fired properly, he'd have killed us. But because he took the shot on the move down, his shot went low into our tracks, did no damage, and we managed to shut him down. We finished the game with the 4 kills, 5.6k damage, 17-12 assistance, the ace tanker, the sniper medal, with the 4 kills, 140,000 silver, made because we've had to fire a decent amount of premium, 2.3, nearly 2.4k base XP, a really fantastic game for the CS-53-56 in a tier 9 game, which, like I say, this tank, me and it have clicked, and I have really enjoyed playing this vehicle so far. Like I say, with the derpy gun handling the poorer DPM, some people probably won't. But generally, if you like vehicles like the Type 59-2 or like the King Dragon, those kinds of vehicles, you probably will enjoy this tank. And realistically, for potentially free from the Season Pass for just what is 2,000 gold, because you do get 2,000 gold back from the Season Pass, solid. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!